I'm excited because today we're jumping into a brand new message series. It's called Jesus and. Say Jesus and. Jesus and. ... Thank you. So what is Jesus and? We all know Jesus. We just got done singing about Jesus. Our vision statement here at Ignite LA Church is to be a place where anyone can be transformed by the person of Jesus. It's not just something we put on a pop-up behind me, but it's actually something that we strive to become. Because we live in a city and we live in a culture and we live in an age where we're often more comfortable with things that we do for God than things that we practice and things that we believe, things that we say are part of our lifestyle, than we actually are in entering into a relationship with a person. Because if you're in a relationship today, if you're married, or if you're dating, if you're in a situationship, whatever it is for you, we're all in some type of relationship, friendships, if you got kids, whatever it looks like, how many of you know a relationship demands some level of sacrifice? A relationship demands some level of me saying, I can't always do what I want to do. Trust me, next month I celebrate a decade of marriage, and I don't get my way all the time. It's okay. I love my wife. She's gorgeous. Where is she? I love you, baby girl. I hope you can hear me. But here's the thing. There is this sense of a willing mutual submission in a relationship. We're not going to preach on that today, but there's this sense of a relationship with the person, and this person is Jesus, and he is God. And if you've ever heard me talk on this before, I talk a lot about how ultimately, if we don't surrender to the person of Jesus, but yet we say we're a Christian, then really what we're doing is we're practicing spirituality, right? So I can lift my hands in worship, and I can pray, right? I can even pray for a miracle. I can receive healing. I can do all kinds of things. But if I am not surrendered to Jesus, then I'm not who I say I am. Jesus said, if you love me, you would obey me. You'd follow my command. You're my friends because I bring you close into what I'm doing and who I'm all about. And so today we're looking at the letter to the Hebrews. And in this letter, we don't know who wrote it, but it's all about a group of people who thought they had it figured out. In fact, they're like, hey, we have the lineage. We know who God is. Anybody, like, you can trace your family line back pretty far? Some of us can, some of us can't. You don't have to raise your hand, but if you're out there and you know what I'm talking about. Whether could be from Europe, could be from Latin America, could be from a part of Africa or Asia. I have two lines. I can trace back one side of my family to West Africa. I can trace back the other side to the UK, to Scotland and Northern Ireland. And the interesting thing about it is, if you think about where you came from, these people knew where they came from. They're like, yeah, I know this guy named Moses. He led us out of slavery. I know the guy before him, his name was Joseph. He's the reason that we even got into that mess 400 years ago. He didn't know that was going to happen to us, but he's the one who saved us from starving to death. And ultimately, we inherited things because of him, right? We know this man named David. We know all these patriarchs. We know Abraham. We know Isaac. We know Jacob. We know where we came from. But now you're telling us about this man named Jesus. Except for he's not just another prophet. He's God. He's God. And so ultimately, it's not about philosophy. It's not about what I think. It's about who he is and what he did and what he says. And if I'm going to be a follower of Jesus, I have to understand what it looks like. And so Hebrews is all about a group of people who were like, yo, I just can't receive this grace thing. It doesn't make sense to me. I have to add more things to it. Anyone here, you're a perfectionist? You're just like, I just got to do more things. It's never good enough. Okay? This is for you. Because ultimately, these people were like, yo, we got lots of external pressure from the culture telling us what we should say, what we should believe, what's going on. And internally, we're like, hey, we have to offer another sacrifice, right? We have to fast at certain times of the year. We have to do certain things. And if we don't, what's going to happen? We're going to be unclean, ritually unclean. Okay? But the writer of the letter to the Hebrews is saying, hey, no, you got it wrong. I'm not saying you should get rid of those things. Those aren't bad things. But those things aren't going to save you. Only a person can save you. Because a person created you. A system cannot save you. A rule can't save you. Showing up to church, I want you here, but it's not going to save you. It's just not. The only thing that can save you is the person of Jesus Christ, and he is God. So today we're going to take a look at Hebrews chapter 1. Anybody want to hear a dad joke real quick? I was about to early in my intro, but I just kind of got busy. So, hey, how many of you, if you're married, actually, yeah, this might work. How many of you drink coffee? It's okay. I'm probably the most copious coffee drinker in this room. If not, I can challenge you. We'll just go to the cafe down the street afterwards. I can throw it down. But did you know that in a relationship, in any relationship, the dude is supposed to make the coffee? Did you know that? You drink chai, so it doesn't count. No, seriously. Because biblically, it says he brews. I'm usually not that corny. It's 4th of July. It's getting hot out. Wow, y'all are like, okay. Open form. Okay, chill out. All right, let's get back to the text. So this is a story. Oh, Jesus, help us. Lord, you're worthy. Thank you. Amen. Hey, it's okay to have fun in church. It's okay to laugh. If you can laugh at the Hollywood Improv. Why can't you laugh here? That's right. Amen to that. Okay, so I want to share a quick story with you. So when I was 18, I went to college. Fairly common in this country, if you went that route. And I grew up in the Midwest, but I moved to Florida. Okay, if you've never been to Florida, Florida is wicked hot. Like wicked hot and humid. I didn't know that houses didn't have air conditioning till I came to Southern California. I've only ever lived in places with central AC and central heat. In Florida, you're either at the beach, or you're in your office with the AC running, or you're in your car with the AC running, or you're in a store or a mall. You're in some space with cold air blowing in your face for like 8-9 months out of the year. Or you're at the beach in the water, hopefully cooling down, right? Anyway, so I'm here in Florida. There's alligators that walk on campus. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And I was just excited to be in this new place as a young college student. And the first class I took was called Theology 1. Theology 1. And I remember on the very first day I went to class, right, because I had a major in journalism and a minor in theology, and I had to take so many credits and all that stuff. And I got into this class, and I'm sitting in the front. And on the very first day, professor comes in, and he's talking about, hey, this is not an apologetics class about defending Christianity, but I want to tell you guys something here. Have you ever met with somebody who says something like, God doesn't exist? His response is, hey, okay, you're saying prove God exists. Prove you exist. There's no such thing as irrefutable proof. He took his pen, he went to the board, and he said, we're going to talk about different religions. We're going to talk about Judaism and Islam, Christianity, Buddhism and Hinduism, Taoism, all this other stuff. But ultimately, you have to understand something. The Christian faith is the only one, I don't have a whiteboard today, it's the only one where there is nothing that you could do to earn salvation. God had to come down to you. You could never reach up to God. That's right. And in that moment, as an 18-year-old, it like synthesized everything I learned growing up in church in like a minute. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And so if we're going to start anywhere, we have to start with that. And that's what this letter is about. It's about the greatness of Jesus, who he is and what he did. So Hebrews 1, the supremacy of God's Son, says, long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom he also created the world. He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint, the exact imprint of his nature, and he upholds the universe by the word of his power. After making purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, having become as much superior to the angels as the name he has inherited is more excellent than theirs. So right off the bat, what do we see here? The author is saying, hey, I want you to understand something. You might believe in Moses, you might believe in angels. In this culture, they believed angels were really living and active. They would stir things up, they would come down, they would bring messages, right? They announced the birth of Jesus, they did all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of history of angels being involved. The term angel means messenger. What's the name of our city? Los Angeles, Los Angeles, right? La reina de nuestro, I forgot to say it all, but de la pueblo. An angel is a messenger, and we live in the storytelling capital of the world. Isn't that fascinating? Jesus became the greatest of all time because of what he did, because of who he is. And that's my point to us today, is that in your life, Jesus has the final word. Jesus has the final word. Your career doesn't have the final word. Your friendships don't have the final word. Not even your spouse or your significant other has the final word. No one has the final word but Jesus in your life. And if you don't get that, if you don't remember that, if you don't understand that, nothing else you do as a follower of Jesus or as a Christian is going to count. It's not going to make sense. It's all going to come from works-based righteousness. And it doesn't matter how long you've been a Christian, someone who's surrendered their life to Jesus, we all have a tendency to do. We all have a tendency to fall out of this. When was the last time you consulted Jesus on your job? If you should take an opportunity. Seriously. I remember before we came here to LA, it was about a 3-year process of praying and seeking and taking time to process, Jesus, or what are you calling us to do? Are you calling me to this place? Are you calling me to do this? Are you calling me to these people? God, what venue? Where should we do church at? Have you ever invited him into those intimate decisions in your life? Have you ever brought him in that close? It's kind of scary, isn't it? Do it. Bring him in that close. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't look at things like cost of living. I'm not saying that you shouldn't look at things like, you got to pay rent. Rent's kind of high out here, right? There's things we got to do, right? There's things that are out of our control. There's writers' strikes. There's all kinds of industry stuff that's turbulent. There's things that we cannot control, period. But the one thing that has kept me sane as a follower of Jesus is understanding that my submission is in relationship to a person, not into my circumstance, not into my opportunities. Because the reality is, there's always another opportunity, right? But is it the right opportunity? It's saying right here that Jesus, what does it say? He's the exact imprint of the glory of God, the radiance and the imprint of his nature. So if you want to see what God looks like, look at the person of Jesus. Look at what he did. Look at what he said. Look at where he went. Look at how he treated people. Look at how he talked to people. Look at how he talked to his mom when she said, yo, we're out of wine. Can you make more wine? Yes, Mom, I can do that. It's not really my time yet, but I love you. So, seriously. So if you ever get confused in what it means to be a follower of Jesus and be a Christian, look at the man. Look at the person. This is why we get so confused and frustrated. Because we take our eyes off of a person and we focus on our circumstances and we focus on things we have to do all the time. And these people were the worst. These Hebrews, they're like, it's just too hard. Like, it's too hard to be a Christian. I want to go back to Judaism because I knew what I had to do. It just was very easy or simple. It wasn't easy. It was simple. It was laid out in every little detail, right? Well, I got news for you. Being saved by grace is very simple because all you have to do is receive something that you didn't earn. You have to receive the grace of Jesus and see the glory of God, the radiance of God in his life. So if you're a Christian, your faith centers on two things, a person and an event. Before the Bible was even put together, before there was any scripture to read, people focused on the man and his message. The man and what he did. And who he was. That is what counts. That is what matters. Because even on your worst days, you have to understand Jesus has the final word. You have to understand the greatness of the person of Jesus. This is always tested, even in my life. As hard as things get, I'll wake up, I'll have a week where I'm just like, oh, Lord, this is a lot of stuff. But as hard as things might seem, you're so high above even anything that I could remotely deal with. You ever had a circumstance where it's like something that's like so small, but yet it's so frustrating at the same time? Like, I can't even get my door open. What's going on? Why is this not working? Like, it's just so like, had an issue with that. Like, this remote's not working. Why is it not working? I'm going to throw it against the wall. Why is it not working? Okay, I'm the only one. Okay. You need to go to remote therapy. Why is this not working? I get frustrated, right? I tell you that Jesus even cares about that. He's like, my child, I know you're frustrated right now. Seriously, what would it do for your relationship with God if you understood that Jesus cares about even the most minute details in your life? Do you believe that? You might say you believe it, but do you act like it? He actually cares about every little thing. He cares. You know why? Because he made that strand of hair in your head. He cares about everything. Jesus, should I dye my hair? If so, what color? When I realized that Jesus, the imprint of God the Father, when I realized, seriously, I don't want you to leave here without understanding this. When I realized that Jesus cares as much as I want him to care about anything, that was a whole nother level of love for me. So I'm like, oh, you care about that too? Yeah, if you want me to. You know, should I have a bowl of granola this morning like I do almost every morning? I don't usually ask him that, but if so, he would give me his opinion on that, you know? Do you want to? Christianity is not always about, it's not about the do's and the don'ts. It's about the relationship. If I have to ask my wife, hey, babe, should I do this? Should I do that? What about this? What about that? I'm like, okay, it's been 10 years. Like, you don't know me right now? You don't know enough about me? The closer you go in relationship to Jesus, the more you understand his character, because he understands yours. He knows who you are. You got to understand that intimacy of relationship. You have to grasp that today. There's this sense that in our culture, we often look at buildings, we look at things that have people's names on them, right? We think about things like Jefferson Boulevard or Wilshire Boulevard or Sepulveda. And we know that they're there, but we don't really realize, we don't remember the person and what they stood for. Are we treating Jesus that way? Like, we know what you did, but do we know who you are in our lives now? Because Jesus wants to give you a fresh revelation of his love every day, every single day, every morning. He wants to bring you in to who he is every single day. He wants to be involved in every situation, every decision, every relationship. Should I swipe left or swipe right? Come on, somebody. Some people are snapping their heads like, hey, I'm not calling anybody out. Bumble wasn't even a thing when I got married, so don't worry. Do you want to bring Jesus into that? Hey, my son, my daughter, I'm dealing with this situation. There's this thing going on at school. What should I do, Jesus? What do you think? Yeah, my husband's just not listening. He's not listening. He's not meeting my needs. Okay, Jesus, what should I do? Bring him into those situations. Bring him in. The next time you feel like, I don't want to say the word, there's a nicer word than nag, isn't there? The next time you feel like you just want to like tell off somebody that you're in a relationship with, maybe pray about it first. Maybe take a minute to just approach Jesus first. Because if he's the imprint of God, he's imprinted his nature on you, which means you have the capacity to surrender to him. You have the capacity and the ability to bring him into the situation if you want to. Because he's a gentleman and he's not going to force himself into that relationship no matter what you do. He's not going to do that. He's always going to let you invite him in. And here in our city, that's the biggest spiritual struggle, is a person. Can I submit to this person? Can I be in relationship to this person? Or am I looking for Jesus and? Is there something else that he can't meet my need for? Is there something else that he can't help me achieve? Is there something else that Jesus just is not able to do? No. He's all sufficient. He's great. He's powerful. He's beautiful. He's Yeshua. That's who Jesus is. As the worship team is coming this morning. Anybody here love soccer? This is an LAFC community. If you're a Galaxy fan, we're going to do an altar call in about 5 minutes. And I'm going to ask you to come forward and receive. Actually, I think a couple of our Galaxy fans are not here today, so. So whether you follow soccer or not, there's a big game this weekend. That's why I thought about it. There's this guy that you probably heard of. His name is Lionel Messi. You know who Messi is? If you don't, I'm sorry. Lionel Messi is a soccer player, arguably the greatest player of all time, if not one of the greatest athletes of all time, in terms of physicality, in terms of what he's able to do on the pitch. And in November of last year, he did something that he's been trying to do his entire career. He won the FIFA World Cup for his nation of Argentina and cemented his legacy in Qatar. He has that post on Instagram where he's holding like the trophy, Campeones del Mundo, right? Like super excited. But before he even got to that point, about a decade before then, he was playing for Barcelona. Now he's about to come here and play for Inter Miami and hopefully take them out of their misery. Take them from the worst team in the league to, well, not the best, because that's LAFC's role. One of his teammates, Pep Guardiola, said this is in 2012, about Messi. Messi, is the greatest. He's the best. There's no one else. It's not easy to score 5 goals in a soccer game, right? The circumstances don't matter. He competes against himself. We, the team, we only try to provide the conditions so he can receive the ball as many times as possible where he feels comfortable on the pitch. We are very fortunate to have a player like this. We can only enjoy him and this team. And this is the part that gripped me the most. The throne is his. Only he will decide when he's ready to leave it. Like, whoa. He's the greatest. And he's not even done yet. And so we look at somebody who's so great, but let me tell you, Messi's going to decide when he wants to retire. Okay? That's up to him. When he wants to leave his throne. But Jesus will never leave his throne. Jesus will always be great. Jesus will always be present. Jesus will always be available. Jesus will always be in your life as long as you want him in your life, as long as you want him in your situation. He loves you. He wants you. He's pursuing you. He's after you. He's here for you every single day of your life, forever and all time, if you want him to be. If you want him to be. I'm not going to give away the whole book of Hebrews because I got more to talk about next week and the week after that. But if we don't start with the beauty of Jesus, then nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. It's just a nice spiritual experience this morning, and have a great weekend. But if we don't understand the beauty of Jesus, and most importantly, the availability of Jesus. Do you know how available he is? He's available. When he was on earth, he would stop everything. When I went to Israel for the first time 12 years ago, I saw the Galilee region. I saw Jerusalem and the old city. You could see where he did his ministry. And you would see just how things were. But sometimes it'd be like, yeah, he went to Jericho. Okay, that's way over there. But he would go out of his way for people. And he's going out of his way for you. He will go out of his way for you because he loves you. Amen.